Hello. Now, the Care for Calais issued a statement at 2:30 today saying that none of the 20 asylum seekers they've supported were transferred to the Bibi Stockholm today, as legal representatives have had their transfers cancelled, and Suella Braverman has gone wild with fury, and she's released her final demand, and she's threatening to cancel these people's accommodation by the state, to make them homeless, and also to cancel their asylum application itself, and therefore to put them in a position where they have to be deported. So if somebody is homeless, they probably will go to ground, they probably won't be found. And if somebody is due to be deported, then presumably they have to be detained somewhere and then put on a plane, and Suella Braverman will have to face the legal battle to remove these people who have so far gone through all the hoops. Now, the people we were told who were being put on the Bibi Stockholm are people who are already well advanced down the asylum application, so that means their asylum has been given a nod as a and they're already in the system. So presumably at this point, these people would then have to be removed from that system. They've already got a good reason for asylum, and so Suella Braverman would have to deal with that legally. It is absurd. She is simply posturing, and she is nuts, utterly nuts. And the Bibi Stockholm is a sticking plaster for a much bigger problem, and it's not a very good sticking plaster. And it's a sticking plaster because Suella Braverman is, we could say, is she a conservative? Is she a socialist? Is she something else? She is something else. She is genuinely something else. A conservative would be thinking about what is good for business, what is good for the image of the country, what is within the traditions of our system. A good socialist, of course, would be looking at what is going to foster social cohesion and what can society do about it. In fact, in both cases, we're quite close together. And what she is proposing is chaos. Chaos, bullying, and threats, which are going to get no one in, nowhere. And Jenrick has already been exposed as a potential liar. He's already said things impulsively. I'm sure he's not a liar. I'm sure he's simply made stupid statements because he's been on the back foot. But his claim to be going off to Turkey to be discussing the return of Turkish migrants is absurd. And it's one absurdity after another. And now he's talking about Ascension Island. Well, we know that boat has sailed. We know that even if Ascension Island were to be considered, it doesn't have the resources. Everything would have to be shipped over there. There's no natural resources for looking after a large number of people. So at the very most, it would be an exercise for a handful of migrants to make a point. Now, maybe Suella Braverman and Jenrick are prepared to do that, just to make a point. But it is doing no more than another sticking plaster. And it is absurd. And we need somebody who actually does the hard work in the Home Office, who's thought through all the processes. Because a Home Office minister, a Home Office Secretary of State, who is deliberately making people homeless, that is surely a nonsense in itself. A nonsense in itself. A Home Office minister, the Secretary of State, who is throwing people out of the country who have already qualified in principle for asylum. They haven't gone through all the paperwork. Or was it a lie that the people being put on the Bibi Stockton Bibi Stockholm are already people who are far advanced through the process of asylum application. So we know we are being fed so many different stories at the moment that there isn't a clear certainty about anything we are told. The Home Office ministers seem to give the media one story today, another story tomorrow, like small children caught in the act of stealing the sweets from the kitchen drawer. There's sweet papers all over the floor. Did you take the sweets? No. And they will say anything to wriggle out of responsibility for their actions, or in this case, probably their inaction. I think the legal consequences of Suella Braverman's threats are enormous, and they are not conservative. I think the legal consequences of Suella Braverman's threats are enormous, and they are not socialist. As I say, I think she is something else. And she is dangerous, and she is encouraging Robert Jenrick, who should know better, to behave like her shadow. It's like seeing Batman and Robin and thinking that they are both on the side of good. They're vigilantes, and they are causing chaos. Now, the other thing I wanted to bring up was the idea, because there's a fellow called Drop Down John or something. I can't remember what his name is. He's quite, he's strange. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go somewhere? Are you appealing for asylum? Why don't you go down onto the floor? He'll scream for attention in about 2 minutes. Be in no doubt at all about that. No, the person is Drop Dude John, and Drop Dude John. I don't mind if Drop Dude John sends me aggressive comments, but I don't like it when he's attacking, or she is attacking another person who's very kindly left a comment. So it comes very close to bullying, and I will block you for that if you do it anymore. Drop Dude John. So Graham Lees points out quite wisely that there's nothing illegal in migrants crossing many countries to claim asylum. And Article 31 is vague. Now, you may think, if you're not a lawyer, that Article 31, which says you must claim asylum in the first country you get to directly, is very precise. It's not precise, and that imprecision, that use of the word directly, allows, as British judges over the last 10 years have ruled, allows for up to 70 days of transit from the country that a migrant is fleeing to the host country. And we can look, for example, at Lord Justice Fulford, the Vice President of the Court of Appeal, the Criminal Division. We can look at Mr. Justice Jay. We can look at a series of cases which make up the backlog of extraordinary case history, which must be taken into account when considering what or how to interpret Article 31. So unless you are a lawyer, Drop Dude John, I suggest you shut up and don't bully other people who are kind enough to add their comments, because you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm very happy to repost videos which I've made in the past, which refer specifically to these cases, and specifically to the very interesting cases where, for example, there was a case in Spain, I think, where somebody applied for asylum, a Spanish person applied for asylum in France. Now, the illusion would be that that isn't possible, because they're both in the European Union, but that person was granted asylum. And in the same way, somebody from Albania could easily apply for asylum in the UK. Albania still has blood feuds, and people may well feel that their life is in danger should they stay in their home country. And there you are, you're back again. You see, he's back. Um, and, uh, and so again, the idea of that Suella Braverman, who talks about safe countries, the idea that there are specifically safe countries, that's true. But a safe country may not be quite as safe as we imagine it to be, and even in a safe country, there may be reasons why somebody could claim asylum from that safe country. I could imagine people claiming asylum from the UK. It's not an impossible thought, and that needs to be allowed in law. And so the two things you should take from this: number one, Suella Braverman, we shouldn't be waylaid by Suella Braverman's madness and her pontificating and her absurdity, and also, I was going to say, as Maya Tusi also acknowledges, this is a sticking plaster to a much bigger problem. I agree with him absolutely, wholeheartedly. And more than that, I did notice that somebody was attacking Maya in a particularly unpleasant way. Do not assume I'm so tribal that I won't come to the aid of people who I think are being unfairly attacked on grounds of race or even their opinions. I don't like this tribalism, and I won't countenance it, and certainly not in YouTube comments. So people like Drop Dude John, you're warned. I'm putting you on a warning. and I will simply block you if you bully other people again. So don't do it.